Seasoning makes you fat. Here comes the hater. Help women, for those who want to lose weight on the scale. And seasoning is one way holding you back from the number that you want to see. Let's flip this bitch around. 340 milligrams of sodium for only a quarter teaspoon. Nobody measures a quarter. No one just 340 milligrams of. Here come the haters. I have kidney disease. It contains so much water, so when you're standing on the scale looking for that number to go down, it doesn't, because you're constantly inflaming your body with too much salt. Take it from someone who's 46 years old, perimenopause, knows what the fuck she's talking about. You who do want to see some change in your body, do the change that you are after.
Okay, have you ever had a perfect day? You hit your protein goals. You stayed in your calorie deficit. You crashed your workout. But you wake up the next morning, step on the scale, and you're 3 pounds heavier. The immediate thought is, the diet is not working. That's it, I'm done. And then you remember, oh yeah, I had soy sauce last night, or I had sushi last night. And it's the salt. The sodium has stopped my weight loss. And that's because we've been conditioned to think of salt like a progress killer. Like she said, seasoning is making you fat. And she's not the only one. We see bodybuilders cutting out salt before a show. We see people selling depuffing teas everywhere. We see people doing these salt flashes using water. We get this idea that salt is bad for us. Salt will stall our weight loss. Salt will make us, like she said, fat. But is that extra sprinkle of salt actually going to stop you from losing body fat? Or are we just confusing a temporary water spike with weight gain? Today we're going to get salty about the truth. Hello everyone and welcome back. My name is Daisy, aka D. If you're new here, welcome to the channel where we stop the dieting cycles and look at the science instead. And today, for myth number 20, we are going to tackle a myth that causes unnecessary panic than almost any other myth that we have covered on this channel. And that is sodium or salt will stop your weight loss, or even seasoning. Through my own experiences, I've had times when I've gone out or cooked a really good meal and then woken up the next day and my weight went up. But I'm not the only one who's gone through these. Through my Better in 90 program, which is designed to help women lose weight and keep it off, I have had very many women message me when they are worried because their scale jumped up overnight because they had a salty meal. They went out and they had onion rings, or they went out with their friends and got fried chicken or something, and they think that they've gained fat. They think that their progress is gone. But here's a spoiler alert, it's not. Let's talk about the difference between weight and fat, and surprisingly why salt might actually be good for you on a weight loss journey. Here's something that many people do not know. Scale weight is not the same thing as body fat. Your body is roughly 60% water. And sodium is an electrolyte that lives outside the cells in your body. And to make sure there is fluid balance going on inside your body, salt likes to hold on to water. So when you eat a high sodium meal, like sushi, your body will temporarily hold on to water because it wants to dilute that salt and keep that fluid balance going on. And yes, I could be more technical about it, but I like to simplify things as much as possible. And this tendency to hold on to water is what we refer to as water retention. And this is what makes you start looking a bit softer in the mirror, or you find that your clothes are fitting a bit tighter after a day of eating out or cooking really salty homemade meals. But here's the good thing, water has 0 calories, thank goodness. And that means that it is physically impossible for sodium to create fat cells even when it's holding on to this water. And if your scale happens to go up 2 pounds, 3 pounds, 5 pounds overnight after you've had a salty meal, then you did not gain those amount of pounds in terms of fat, it's water. However, the difference comes in what you ate. If in addition to the sodium, you also had like 7,000 extra calories or 3,500 extra calories of actual food, because water does not have calories. If you actually consume the surplus of calories, then yes, you have gained weight. It will not necessarily amount to fat in the long term, but if you continue down that road, then yes, you're paving the way for weight gain. Now let's talk about performance. Believe it or not, being too afraid of salt can actually hurt your weight loss journey. I know many bodybuilders and many fitness influencers tend to avoid salt. And there are many people online who are saying that if you want to lose weight, you want to lose fat, you need to lay off the salt. But you actually need salt. And that's because sodium is essential for muscle contraction and nerve signaling. If you are working out hard, you are sweating out electrolytes. And like we said, sodium is an electrolyte. And when its levels are too low, your workouts start feeling much harder than they need to be. You start getting brain fog, and you might even start experiencing muscle cramps. And you'll think that it's because the workouts are hard. No, it's because your electrolyte levels are too low. And if you cannot perform well in the the gym because you're eating too little sodium, then you will not be able to build the muscle that will be able to help you keep your metabolism high. You'll not even be able to perform well in the gym. And if you're relying on those workouts to help you stay in a calorie deficit, then you'll be actually doing yourself a disservice. So in reality, a little bit of salt before your workout, or during the day, is okay, because it gives you that extra pump and that extra energy that you need to keep burning those calories, in the gym, or doing your walks or whatever else you're doing to increase your non-exercise activities. Okay, now we've covered that weight is not necessarily fat. We've covered that eating salt is actually good for you in terms of performance, but then we know that this myth actually persists. So why is that? Just like we talked about in the red meat video, it comes down to the company that salt keeps. Like in the red meat video, I said that people think that red meat causes weight gain, but studies show that people who happen to be overweight or obese because they're eating red meat also happen to exercise less. They also happen to enjoy more junk foods. They also happen to engage in habits that are likely to lead to weight gain. So it's not the red meat, it's the company that it keeps. And we see the same thing with salt. Most salty foods in our modern day diets are very palatable. I'm looking at you, Pringles, and all those other snacks that people like, crisps, popcorn, peanuts, nuts in general, frozen pizzas, fast food, and even fresh pizzas. There are so many foods that are very high in salt that are very, very, very tasty. And so you find that these foods are not just high in sodium, they are also high in refined fats, high in hidden sugars, and they're extremely high in calories because they have a lot going on in there. Like, your pizza, you've got that cheese layer, you've got meat, you've got so much going on, you've got the crust. It's not just the sodium that's in there. But people will eat a pizza or, a bag of chips or, popcorn on their movie night, and then they'll see the scale go up. And then they'll blame the sodium. They'll say it's the salt. And it's the salt that's causing the water retention. That's why their weight is going up. But in reality, the reason that their weight loss progress is stalling is because of the food. There are calories in the food. There are calories in the pizza, the potato chips, the frozen pizza, the nuts. There are calories in these foods. And at the end of the day, it's always calories in versus calories out, which is something that I say in every video actually. If you're eating at a surplus, it does not really matter what you're eating in a surplus, then you will gain weight. So for these people, they're not just gaining weight because of the water retention, they're also gaining fat. Because to gain a pound of fat, you need to eat an excess of 3,500 calories in a week. And of course, this is in theory, because when it comes down to it, your body will always fight to keep you at a set weight, homeostasis and everything. But at the end of the day, if you do continue down that road, you will gain weight and fat because you have the salt and you have the calories. Now, in my Better in 90 program, we do not fear the salt shaker. In fact, I love salt. We love salt. Many people love salt. Salt is tasty. Salt transforms foods. However, salt does have health effects if it's eaten in excess. At the same time, we've seen that it does cause changes on the scale. So we have to learn how to manage the changes it creates on the scale, while also making sure that we're enjoying our food and we're staying healthy. So here are my 3 strategies that I share with my clients. First, we embrace the 48-hour rule. If you have a high sodium meal, like frozen pizzas, or you go out and you have quesadillas or fajitas, you need to stay off the scale for 48 hours. This gives your kidneys enough time to flush out the excess water. But if you're the kind of person who likes weighing in frequently, or you have to get on the scale for some reason, you're at the doctor's appointment, or you're at the gym and your fitness trainer wants to see how well you're doing, and you see that there is a spike on the scale, don't let this temporary increase in weight, not fat, in weight, discourage you from sticking to a plan that's actually working. Secondly, you can hydrate to flush. I mentioned earlier that people online are flushing their bodies with water to help them get rid of salts and the water retention. And it might sound counterintuitive, but if your body is holding on to water because of salt, then you need to drink more water. If you want to see that weight go down, you need to drink more water. Drinking more water tells your body that we have enough fluids coming in and we can stop holding now. We can just let go. So if the weight increase is really getting to you and you're not willing to wait the 48 hours, or you can't for some reason, then you can just flush it out with water. It works. Third, you need to focus on your potassium. Like I said, electrolytes, sodium is an electrolyte. It's not the only electrolyte that you need, and potassium is a very important electrolyte when it comes to your weight. We can think of potassium as the yin to sodium's yang. While potassium holds water outside your cells, to maintain that fluid balance, potassium works to keep it inside. And if you can eat more potassium, then you can achieve this fluid balance faster and avoid getting that puffy feeling, where you look soft or where your clothes are not fitting as tightly as you want them to. You can achieve that by eating more potassium-rich foods, and these include foods like spinach and bananas and avocados. I personally love bananas. I have a banana every day actually. I have a banana every day. They say an apple a day keeps the doctor away. I believe it's a banana a day. But then, if you're trying to get rid of water retention, if you're trying to manage your fluid balance, then eating more potassium is actually good for you. You can balance that with the sodium. Like we said, some salt is good for you. Now you add some potassium and you're good to go. At the end of the day, salt is an essential nutrient that helps you to perform, but it can cause changes on the scale, especially when you're eating foods that are high in sodium. Again, this is not advisable. This is a once in a while thing. Over time, you want to reduce your salt intake so that, yes, you can go out and have food, but for the most part, you want to be reducing that salt intake for your health, not just for your weight. But when it comes to your weight, rather than just following the ups and downs of your water retention, because this can make you start thinking that your diet is not working, because if you're measuring your weight on a Monday and you often go out to eat on Sundays, then Mondays will always be like a day where you see that you're not making progress, but that's because your weight is going up and not the fat. So instead of doing that, you can just focus on your calorie deficit and get some movement in and drink more water. And of course, season your food so that it actually tastes good enough to stick to your diet in the long term. Now that said, does your scale worry you after you have had a salty meal? Or have you learned to ride the water retention wave? It took me a while to just get used to the ups and downs. Now I'm used to it. It's been years of, seeing those fluctuations. I'm used to how the scale moves, but I still see these with my clients and they're often very concerned when they see that spike. So are you like them, or have you learned to just ride that wave? Let me know your experiences in the comments. I love hearing stories that have nothing to do with the number, so you can also let me know if you have experienced this with your clothes, and give this video a thumbs up if it lowered your stress levels today, and hit subscribe for more myth busting. I'll see you in the next one.